The CEO called me Susan for 2 years. My name's not Susan, it's Claire Martinez. I only corrected him once after I overhauled the churn model and saved us from bleeding another $400K in renewals. He blinked twice and said, "Thanks, Susan." So yeah, I knew where I stood, but I still showed up every damn day. Fixed broken automations. Smoothed out engineering handoffs. Wrote the entire onboarding flow in one caffeine-fueled weekend when the last product manager rage quit via Slack. Retention climbed 17%. ARR doubled in 9 months. And churn, down so low I joked with legal we might accidentally violate antitrust law if things kept compounding. Then last Monday, while I was neck-deep in the quarterly cohort report, the CEO walked past my desk on his phone, laughing. "We've totally rebranded the turnaround? Oh yeah, all me and Tyler. Wait till you see our deck." Tyler is his son. Fresh out of Wharton, tan like a Hollister model and couldn't debug a sandwich. I didn't flinch, just kept typing, but something cracked. You know what's wild? 97% of people listen to these stories without subscribing. 97. If this story sounds all too familiar or makes you want to scream into your office plant, smash that like button and maybe subscribe. Seriously, it keeps us caffeinated and plotting. Now, back to my meltdown in slow motion. At first, I tried to laugh it off. I mean, I'd survived worse. Like the time the CTO wiped staging during a demo and blamed QA, or when legal forgot to redact a vendor contract and leaked our entire pricing structure to a rival. I patched those disasters with nothing but duct tape logic and Google Sheets vengeance. But this was personal because the deck he was referring to? I built that thing, every line, every stat, every projection that made us look like we were worth a second glance. I built it while listening to Tyler explain blockchain like he'd invented it, and sipping coffee so burnt it could double as industrial cleaner. And the worst part? I still wanted the company to win, like some broken-down startup Florence Nightingale. I didn't want fireworks or titles or even a shout-out in the company newsletter. I just wanted the numbers to be right, the roadmap to stop shifting every week, and for anyone, to admit that the magic wasn't magic. It was me, Claire, not Susan. Later that same day, I sat through a strategy call where Tyler, bless his golden retriever soul, suggested we pivot toward proactive synergies and build a vibes-based AI stack. My camera was off. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. But here's the thing. You can only gaslight someone so long before the pilot light hits back. That night, I stayed late, not unusual. I do my best thinking when the office is empty. The lights are buzzing slightly like they're tired too, and the janitor gives me that knowing nod like, "You again?" I opened a spreadsheet titled Q4 Ops Expansion and renamed it Contingency. By midnight, I'd mapped out every single initiative I'd personally touched since joining. From feature prioritization trees to the rollout plan that reduced onboarding time from 14 days to 3. I highlighted the ones that Tyler had claimed in the latest vision board and started tagging the buried landmines only I knew existed. Because if you're going to get erased, you might as well leave behind a few ghosts in the code. I didn't know what I'd do yet. Not fully. But the wheels had started turning. And once they did, I couldn't stop them. The next morning, I got summoned like a middle manager at the Hunger Games. No subject line. Just a calendar block from the CEO that said touch base 15 minutes. I'd spent 3 years resurrecting this company like Lazarus with a Wi-Fi connection, and I was getting 50 minutes. His office still smelled like whatever cologne he mainlined in the 90s, something between menthol and failed IPO. He motioned for me to sit without looking up from his phone. I sat, straight-backed, silent, already bracing for some new agile pivot or internal brand realignment word salad. Instead, he finally looked up, grinned like a used car salesman with a fresh spray tan, and said, "Claire, you've done great work." "Really? But it's time for the next level." I blinked. Next level. He leaned back like a man about to deliver a TED talk nobody asked for. "We're entering a phase where optics matter just as much as execution. We need fresh energy, a future-forward face." He slid a folder across the table. "Tyler's stepping in to lead your project now." My hand hovered above the folder, heartbeat in my ears. "He's got the charisma," he continued. "The board loves him. And frankly, it'll play better in the pitch." The folder was thick. I opened it slowly. First page, non-disclosure agreement. Bold, underlined, ironclad. "You're joking," I said, still somehow clinging to the possibility this was all performance art. He laughed. No, you'll still be around, of course. Just behind the scenes. "Tyler's gonna front this one, but we need you to sign. Standard stuff. Optics, you know, standard stuff. Standard like handing over the keys to a house you built. While the guy who's never changed a light bulb throws a party and tells everyone he laid the foundation himself." I skimmed the NDA. Legalese thick enough to drown in, but I didn't need to read it. I already knew what it said. "Shut up, stay quiet, don't rock the boat. Smile while we erase you." He pushed a pen across the table. "Just sign and smile, Claire. Help us keep the momentum." I looked at the pen, then at him, then at the photo on his desk. Him and Tyler on a golf course holding matching drivers like weapons. Tyler was wearing loafers with no socks. My fingers curled around the pen. I signed slowly, deliberately. I smiled too, but it wasn't the smile he wanted. It was the kind that shows too many teeth. You're making the right choice, he said, already pulling out his phone. I stood, nodded, walked out without a word, but I wasn't quiet. Inside, something shifted. It wasn't rage. Rage burns too fast. It was clarity, cold, sharp clarity. The kind that doesn't scream. The kind that takes notes. Tyler hadn't even logged into Jira. He thought Scrum was a breakfast cereal. But sure, let's put him in charge of the product lifecycle. By the time I hit my desk, the internal Slack channel already had a shiny new post. Excited to announce Tyler will be leading our flagship initiative into its next era. Next era, my ass. I opened a blank document, titled it Phase 0. Because if they wanted a next level, I'd show them what that really looked like. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't go full tequila and Taylor Swift like I used to after layoffs. I just sat on the edge of my couch with a lukewarm coffee and stared at the NDA folder like it was a dead raccoon someone left on my porch. No TV, no music. Just the hum of the fridge and the faint click of my jaw grinding. The absurdity kept looping in my head like a cursed tick-tock. Tyler will be leading our flagship initiative into its next era. Tyler, a man who once asked if latency meant we were late, who once sent an email with "Hello World" as the subject line because he thought it sounded techie. And now, he was demoing my work, wearing a company hoodie he got for free, probably still had the tag on. My phone buzzed. Text from Danielle. Our senior engineer. Wait, didn't you build the auto-prioritization system? Tyler's demoing it like it's his. I just saw the internal pitch deck. Slide 8 is your flowchart. Exactly. I stared at the message. Typed, deleted, typed again. Yup, that's all I sent. The old me would have marched into Slack with receipts, lit a fire under the all-hands, and watched the place burn down like a pyromaniac with a grudge and a god complex. But the new me was tired, not weak, just evolved. I didn't want to be right anymore. I wanted to be free, so I opened my resume. First time in 2 years. Not because I planned on sending it anywhere, I just wanted to remember who I was before I started translating CEO nonsense into something that wouldn't make the product implode. Turns out, I'd done a lot, more than I remembered, more than they'd ever give me credit for. I added 3 bullet points. Not lies, not embellishments. Just the truth with Edge. Rebuilt core operations workflow, reducing backlog churn by 42%, designed and implemented auto-prioritization logic currently driving product roadmap, presented live to exec team. While Tyler was in Shalom networking, I hit save. Then saved a copy titled "In Case of Fire." My second monitor blinked with Slack pings. Tyler was posting inspirational quotes again, something about execution over ego. I nearly threw my coffee at the screen. Instead, I opened Notion. Started a new private board. No emojis, no fluff, just what I built: auto-prioritization logic, customer segmentation engine, internal analytics pipeline, onboarding triggers, feature flag rollout tool, feedback loop integration with support tickets, dead zone protocol, Tyler's entire credibility. Under that list, I wrote in bold what they think he built: the future. Trademark. I chuckled. A dry, sharp sound that bounced off the apartment walls like a ricochet. Then I locked the doc. I didn't post a rant, didn't message HR, didn't even passive-aggressively like Tyler's post with a clown emoji. I just took notes and made a list and another, because I wasn't playing defense anymore, and I sure as hell wasn't playing nice. 3 nights later, hosted a game night. Technically, there were board games on the table. Technically, I ordered pizza. Technically, we laughed. But the Monopoly box never opened, and the laughter had that edge to it, the kind of laugh you let out when you're one stubbed toe away from losing your entire grip on reality. I'd invited only 3 people, the ones who knew how the sausage really got made. Danielle, my senior engineer, still at the company, soul slowly dying by Jira ticket. Marcus, our ex-UX lead, currently doing contract work for a fintech startup that called itself the Uber of taxes. And June, our former backend wizard, who quit 6 months ago after being told by Tyler that her tone wasn't collaborative enough. We were all holding something in. I didn't start with a pitch, just let them talk, the way old soldiers do, about bugs that wouldn't die, execs who confused staging with production, Tyler once asking if Git was like a social media thing. Danielle passed around beers. June pulled up a screenshot of a recent Slack thread where Tyler claimed the auto-scaling script I wrote was his MVP experiment. Marcus mimed slamming his head into the table. I listened, nodded, let the venting run its course. Then, when the silence got thick enough to notice, I leaned forward and asked one question. What would you build if we started fresh? Danielle blinked. June stared at her beer. Marcus leaned back in his chair like I'd just asked him to rob a bank. Which, in a way, I had. June was the first to speak. Quiet but clear. I never stopped building, she said, pulling out her laptop. Just kept it to myself. She spun the laptop around. On the screen was a dashboard. Familiar. Clean. Eerily clean. A sleeker version of the internal tool I'd once sketched on a napkin at 2 a.m. One that filtered low-priority tickets before support ever saw them. Ours had worked. Barely. This one sang. You rebuilt it, I whispered. I fixed it, she corrected. I stared at the screen like it was a lifeline, because it was. Danielle leaned in. Okay, now I'm listening. Marcus crossed his arms, eyes scanning the UI. You layered behavior-based tagging on top of event filters? June smirked. and collapsed the two-step queue into a single query. Cut processing time by 60%. Danielle let out a low whistle. This is already better than anything they've got running now. I didn't speak, I just stared at the screen. My brain spun up without permission. Flowcharts, integrations, permissions layers, scalable architecture. All of it forming like frost on glass. Marcus chuckled. You look like you just saw Jesus. No, I said, I just saw a way out. And for the first time since Tyler's name hit that org chart, I smiled. Not the dead-eyed corporate grin, a real one. The kind that pulled from somewhere deep in the chest, somewhere that still had oxygen. We didn't talk about revenge, not directly, but we talked about infrastructure and use cases and how many clients were hanging on by a thread, sick of the vision and desperate for actual function. June pushed her laptop toward me. It's yours if you want it, but I'm in if this is happening. Danielle raised her beer. You know I'll build whatever you dream up. Just promise we'll never call it Future Forward Synergy again. Marcus tapped the table. I'll mock up flows tomorrow. I nodded slowly, then scribbled one word across a sticky note. Next. Game night ended around midnight. No one touched the pizza. The Monopoly box sat unopened, still shrink-wrapped like some relic from a world where we played fair. The allies had gathered. Lines had been drawn. We just hadn't said it out loud yet, but we all knew this wasn't about games anymore. The next morning, I filed the LLC under the name Citrine Layer, Inc. Something forgettable, colorless, safe. No flashy logos, no LinkedIn splash. Just a paper trail buried under 4 shell companies and a Weebly site that looked like it sold artisanal soap. By lunchtime, it was real. I sat at my kitchen table, still covered in half-empty La Croix cans and a pizza box from game night, and stared at the confirmation email like it might detonate. The subject line read, Welcome to Delaware Incorporation Services. I was now the founder of a company no one knew existed, a ghost startup, and it was time to haunt. That weekend, I cracked open my old code archives, the stuff I'd written on personal time, long before it got Frankensteined into company IP. Little utilities, edge case handlers. Logic flows I sketched when I couldn't sleep. They were mine. I knew where every line ended, and more importantly, where the original files began, versions untouched by corporate hands or Slack threads. Spite is a hell of a motivator. Danielle spun up a repo. June migrated the UI from her local machine to a private dev environment. Marcus designed mock flows using real user behavior patterns we remembered, minus the dated UX fluff they'd bolted on after I left. We weren't copying the product. We were rewriting the thesis. They built for bragging rights. We were building for survival. Still, fear crept in, not the loud kind, the quiet type. Like walking across a frozen lake you used to skate on as a kid, knowing full well spring is coming. Every time I saw Tyler post another update, version 3.0 of our roadmap coming soon, #innovation, part of me flinched, because I knew their version of innovation came duct-taped to half-understood analytics and a keynote deck with 72 fonts. But the real fear, it wasn't them discovering Citrine Layer, it was me becoming like them. Bitter, petty, obsessed with being right, so I fought it with discipline. Spreadsheets, arrables, diagrams. I sketched out our go-to-market in bulletproof logic. Wrote docs that no one would read, but I'd know were there. I created a roadmap so clean it looked like a murder scene. The only red was in the growth projections. And then, one night, while poking around the old system, checking the public APIs for any new vulnerabilities, I left something behind. A gift. There was a legacy zone buried deep in the infrastructure. A deprecated logging function still tied to the usage dashboard. I'd built it before Tyler knew the company existed. Still had admin access from my staging credentials. I left a trigger. Nothing malicious, nothing illegal, just a tiny patch of code that would quietly break if anyone tried to optimize it the wrong way. Not immediately. Just enough to freeze sessions for 24 hours and send the logs into an infinite loop of 200 awks. Engineers would panic. Support would scramble. The fix, one undocumented function call, one I never wrote down. A dead zone, not a bomb. A warning because some rooms should stay locked. And if Tyler wanted to play founder, he was going to learn what happened when you wandered into a blueprint you didn't understand. Citrine Layer's prototype was humming now. Bare bones, efficient, bug-free. Every line of code felt like an exhale. It wasn't revenge yet, but it was close. And I wasn't afraid anymore. 3 weeks after the dead zone, Tyler went on LinkedIn and dropped the word disruptive 7 times in a single post. It was about their new smart prioritization initiative, which, judging by the screenshots, was my old logic wrapped in a UI that looked like someone rage-clicked every font option in Figma. The caption? Game-changing upgrade launching this sprint. Built with love and vision. #NextGen Ops, it was like watching someone set a wedding cake on fire and call it creme brulee. Comments were brutal. Didn't this already exist? I thought this was part of last quarter's roadmap. Why does the search bar open a calendar? Internally, I knew what had happened. Tyler had tried to streamline my system by gutting the internal rule weights, which meant the whole engine treated every customer action like a priority 1 fire drill. The result? The support team was drowning in noise. The engine was technically working, just sprinting in every direction like a coked-up Roomba. But I didn't comment, didn't text anyone, just screen capped it and dropped it into our internal Slack with the caption, Meanwhile, in Dollar Store Hogwarts, Danielle added a popcorn emoji. Marcus started a new board titled Feature Graveyard. June added a card called God Help the Interns. And then, the first crack appeared. It came in the form of a short, cautiously worded email from an old investor. He backed us in the early days, quiet guy, glasses, always scribbling. The kind who noticed everything and said nothing unless it mattered. Subject line, quick question, hey Claire, just wondering, did you happen to write the last quarterly brief? The tone shift was noticeable. Fewer numbers, more buzzwords. Off the record, of course. Hope you're well, M. I stared at the screen, then reread it, then laughed out loud. Not a bitter laugh this time, a real one, because someone noticed. Finally, I didn't reply, just archived it, but I let myself smile for the rest of the afternoon. Then came the second crack. Citrine Layer got its first client. It wasn't glamorous. A mid-sized logistics firm in the Midwest. Nothing VC-worthy. No cool branding. But they'd been using the old platform. Quietly reached out to June after hearing she might know someone building something cleaner. We onboarded them in 72 hours. And when their COO emailed to say, this works better than anything we've paid for in 3 years, I damn near framed it. I still didn't put my name on anything. Not in the code, not in the docs, not in the calls. I was the ghost in the foundation, same as always, but now I was building something worth haunting. Of course, it didn't stay secret for long. A tech blog out of Seattle ran a piece titled Shadow Twin. Anonymous platform mirroring former startup gains quiet traction. It was vague. No names. Just a few speculative breadcrumbs about rapid onboarding, impressive logic flows, and one delicious quote. Feels like the original team, just finally unshackled. Tyler reposted the article with a snarky imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Nail polish my team laughed for 20 minutes, because he didn't realize yet that we weren't imitating him. We were imitating ourselves, but better. No meetings that could have been emails. No product strategy dictated by whatever podcast the CEO listened to that week. No more pretending user journey meant anything other than please stop making them click 12 times to reset a password. We just built. And every time Tyler tweeted another buzzword salad about frictionless evolution, we gained another demo request. The wins were small, but they were sharp, and they were starting to add up. It was a Wednesday when the email came in. Subject line, Event Confirmation Ascend Capital Series B Portfolio Showcase. I almost deleted it, thought it was another invite to a networking mixer where tech bros clinked LaCroix cans and misused the word scalable. But then I saw the list of presenting startups. There it was, plain as printer paper, Tyler Vance, Q Solvescence Technologies. My old company, my old product, Roadmap, being paraded around like he'd pulled it out of some startup incubator instead of my blood, sweat, and 12-hour debugging marathons. The bile rose fast. I didn't even blink. Just closed the laptop, stood up, and grabbed my phone. Tell me something good, said Nate, my favorite lawyer and least favorite poker opponent. I need you to look at an NDA. Whose? Mine. A pause. Claire. What did you do? I didn't do anything. I hissed. That's the problem. I sent him the NDA, the real one. The one I signed back when I still believed playing nice might get me a seat at the grown-up table. Nate called back 20 minutes later. He didn't sound amused. You can't disclose anything you worked on, correct? He said, crisp and clean. But here's the fun part. They can't claim your work as their own either. That's enforceable. Even if I was under NDA, especially if you were. If they present your IP as theirs, without attribution, and especially if they raise money on it, you're not just allowed to intervene. You're obligated. I leaned against the counter, heart pounding. What if it's already happening? Then he said with a quiet joy that only lawyers and demons understand, you served them. In the middle of their own damn pitch. It all fell into place like an overdue Rube Goldberg machine. By Friday, Citrine Layer had finalized a funding offer. Seed round, 7 figures. Quiet. Clean. From none other than Ascend Capital, the very firm Tyler was pitching at. The same VC who'd emailed me weeks ago asking if I'd written that quarterly brief. I didn't put my name on the cap table, not directly. Shell company, silent partner, only the founding team knew. But the funding docs listed the platform IP under my authorship. Official, time-stamped, filed. I took a breath that felt like it reached my ankles. Then I called Nate again. Get me a process server, I said. For Tyler? No. For the pitch event, I want him served in the middle of it. Another pause, then a slow, delighted chuckle. Oh, Claire, he said, you finally decided to stop being nice. I booked a seat at the pitch venue under a fake name. Business casual, neutral colors. Sat in the back corner, 1 row from the exit. I didn't bring a laptop. Just a phone, a legal folder, and a coffee I didn't drink. Tyler was scheduled for 10:40 a.m. By 10:35, I saw him in the lobby, grinning like he just won a coding competition he didn't even enter. His slides were open on his iPad. I could make out my old dashboard UI, pixel for pixel. He walked in with the swagger of a man too dumb to be nervous. The process server was already waiting by the registration desk. Manila envelope, neutral expression, badge on his hip. The kind of guy you forget until he taps your shoulder and drops a grenade in your lap. At 10:39, he walked in, calm, unbothered, straight down the center aisle. Tyler didn't even see him coming, but I did. Tyler strutted onto the stage like he was about to unveil the next iPhone. No nerves, no humility. Just that puffed-up energy of a man who's never had to explain version control, but thinks deploying to production means forwarding a deck to marketing. Behind him, the screen lit up. Solvescence Technologies Series B Growth Strategy Slide 1, 2021 to 2022 Turnaround Overview. My Roadmap. Slide 2, Core Infrastructure Innovations. My Automation Logic, slightly renamed. Slide 3, Smart Prioritization Engine, V3.0. My Gotham Flowchart. The same one I sketched at 2 a.m. on the back of a napkin after a support fire drill almost melted the platform. He hadn't even changed the arrows. I didn't blink, didn't twitch. Just sat in the back row and watched, one leg crossed over the other, fingers lightly resting on the legal folder in my lap. The hum of anticipation filled the room, the way tech pitches always do, full of caffeine and desperation and a shared fantasy that this, finally, was the next rocket. Tyler cleared his throat. We're excited to show you how we've built a frictionless engine of operational scalability, designed to evolve with customer behavior in real time. He said those words, out loud, with a straight face. He clicked to slide 4. The graph showed ARR doubling in 2022. My work, my blood, my weekends. And then, from the side of the room, process server stepped forward. No drama, no music swell, just quiet shoes on carpet and a manila envelope. Tyler Vance? Tyler turned, blinked, confused. The man handed him the envelope, said nothing, and walked off like it was just another Tuesday. The room murmured, a few chuckles, a lot of raised eyebrows. Tyler glanced at the envelope like it might bite him. He opened it slowly, lips moving as he read the first few lines. Then his face drained of color. From the VC table, a tall man in a navy jacket stood up, Ascend Capital's lead partner. He walked over to Tyler, took the envelope gently, and read a few lines aloud to the room. Cease and desist filed on behalf of Citrine Layer, Inc. Silence. A pin could have dropped and taken out the entire front row. The VC continued, voice even, almost amused. It says here, misappropriation of proprietary frameworks, unauthorized attribution of authored IP, and presentation of work product under false pretenses. Another pause. Then he turned the page, eyes scanning. And then he laughed, not a chuckle, a full, genuine belly laugh. The kind that comes when someone sees the punchline to a joke they didn't realize they were part of. He clapped Tyler on the shoulder. Hard. Well, Tyler, he said, still grinning, congrats. You just funded your competitor's seed round. Someone actually gasped. Tyler swayed like a drunk on stilts. In the back, I sat frozen. Not smiling, not smirking, just breathing. Across the room, the CTO, still with the company, stared at the screen, recognition flickering across his face like a glitch. He knew that flowchart. Knew it wasn't Tyler's. Knew damn well it wasn't even his. Tyler tried to speak, stammering something about team effort and shared innovation, but no one was listening anymore. Eyes shifted. Laptops closed. Investors murmured quietly to each other in that specific, fatal tone, risk adjustment. His father, the CEO, stood near the entrance, hands in pockets, face pale and unreadable. Like a man watching a building collapse in slow motion and realizing he installed the beams himself. Tyler kept talking. But it didn't matter. The spell had broken. I gathered my things, quietly. No fanfare. Walked out the back while the pitch unraveled like a sweater caught on a nail. No one saw me leave. No one except the VC. He looked up, met my eyes through the glass wall, and gave me the smallest nod. Not respect, not pity, recognition, and that was enough. The morning air outside the venue hit like a baptism, cool, crisp, almost smug. I'd walked out before the fallout settled, before the apologies or excuses or frantic texts could start flying. I didn't need to hear the postmortem. I'd lived the autopsy for years. Halfway down the block, my phone buzzed. One new message. From Ascend Capital Wire confirmation. Subject, transfer complete. Body, first round funding has cleared. Welcome aboard. I stopped walking, not dramatically. Just long enough to let the moment register. Because that was it. It was real now. Not a side project. Not a grudge-fueled prototype. A company with teeth, with capital. With a product that didn't just work, it sang. Clean code, fast logic. No fluff. Built from the ground up by people who'd been ignored, sidelined, replaced, and who chose to build anyway. Across the street, through the glass walls of the pitch venue, I saw the chaos playing out like a silent film. Tyler pacing in tight circles. The CEO hunched in a chair, forehead in his palm. Someone in a pantsuit flipping through legal paperwork like it might spontaneously make sense on the third read. Then I saw him, the CEO, look up, lock eyes with me through the glass. He tried to stand, faltered, sat back down. He looked older now, smaller, good. I adjusted my bag on my shoulder and kept walking. Half a block later, I ducked into a corner cafe, the kind with too many Edison bulbs and not enough outlets. I ordered a coffee I wouldn't drink, took the seat in the back near the window, opened my laptop. There it was. Citrine Layer's admin panel, clean, functional, waiting. I hovered over the launch toggle. Our pilot client was ready. Our second and third were already queued. The engineers were on standby. June had already rewritten the help docs in her usual no BS tone. Marcus had designed an onboarding flow that made me tear up the first time I saw it. Danielle's backend stack purred like a goddamn Tesla. And above it all, top left corner of the dashboard, sat one name. Mine, Claire Martinez. No more ghost in the machine. No more behind-the-scenes fixer while someone else took the stage. No more erasure, just mine. I typed 2 words into the status field, now live, hit enter. Watched the green indicator blink on like a heartbeat, then I closed the laptop, sat back. Let the hum of the cafe and the smell of burnt espresso wrap around me like a soft, strange peace. No cheers, no champagne, just me, sitting quietly, a company breathing on its own. The world reset, and this time, no one could take it from me. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit him.